The car accident I was in over 20 years ago was really bad. I almost lost my daughter, my youngest daughter, and I almost died myself. It was a head-on collision on a freeway here on Highway 16. The whole right side of my body is, a lot of it's titanium, and I was airlifted to Harborview. I had 20 hours of surgery. I wasn't able to wake up for about 8 days after that, and it took me, like a year to recover, physically. COVID is much worse. I would rather much have a broken arm than have to deal with what's going on with COVID inside my body. My name's Tammy Edwards. I am born and raised in Tacoma, Washington. I'm a registered nurse at Tacoma General Hospital, and I work in the mother-baby unit. I was exposed at work, and it spread so easy to Brian just, from breathing on each other, being in the same house. So there's a lot of guilt with that, but I was home and really sick. I thought I was gonna die. And so he was taking care of me. 4 days after I was initially sick, he became sick as well, very sick.
I was coughing for almost 48 hours. And on the 19th, I told Tammy, I said, you need to call 911. I can't breathe at all. I mean, it was just, when I breathe in, it was very, very, very little. And it hurt.
His lips were blue and he couldn't catch his breath, and he was hallucinating because he hadn't slept in 2 days, and his oxygen level went from like 96 down to, on Sunday morning. That was on a Thursday night, and then by Sunday morning he was like 70. So yeah, it was really scary. I'm glad that the fire department and ambulance medical people showed up when they did. And they immediately put a non-rebreather mask on him, which is like almost 100% oxygen. And they did a pulse ox on him, and they got the same reading that I did. And even with 100% oxygen, he was still struggling. So they immediately put him on the gurney.
Yes, I was scared. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how low my oxygen was, nothing. I honestly don't remember Tammy helping me to the front porch when the EMTs got there. I don't remember being loaded into the ambulance, going to the hospital, or 11 days after. I don't remember none of it.
When Brian was taken away by ambulance, it took me like minutes to close my front door. I didn't want to close my front door. And then when I did, it was like I felt like I was shutting the door to not ever seeing my husband again, and I just like fell to my knees. I was exhausted, I was still sick, and I just cried, like ugly cry, for a couple hours. And it was just so scary until they called me and they said that we need to intubate him. And they put the phone to his ear, and I said, I love you, fight, stay with me, don't leave me, I love you. And he said, okay. And then that was the last time I talked to him. But that first 2 days, I was told to be prepared that he likely is not going to pull through. It's devastating. It's really scary. I mean, I know we're all going to die, but something like this, it's so violent. I feel like I was poisoned. I feel like he was poisoned by a virus that is just completely out of control.
Tammy did a journal of every day that I was in the hospital. I still to this day have not read it. I started reading it, I got maybe a page and a half through, and I had to stop. Because I start crying and thinking that, wow, I could have just died. And I don't want to continue reading. There was one thing in that journal that I read that, excuse me, it tore me up, because Tammy called the nurse's station to find out how I was doing. And Tammy asked the nurse how I was doing. The nurse told her, she says, he's not doing good. And Tammy asked, is he going to die? I couldn't read any farther. I still get choked up. Next.
They gave him first the Actemra to calm his body down. And this is why he's completely under. He's in a medically induced coma. They had to give him paralytics so he wouldn't move because he was fighting it. He was out. So they gave him the Actemra that calmed his immune system down. And then they were debating on, since the remdesivir study had been completed, they were like, we're not going to be able to get this. We had to wait like a week for an emergency use again from the sponsor that was sponsoring it through the hospital. And then they gave him the remdesivir, and it took him 11 days to finally be extubated and able to breathe on his own.
What's the first thing you remember after that?
Talking to my wife and asking for popsicles. That's what I remember.
We planned a huge, like, we're gonna do those things where people come out of the hospital, and we're gonna do that for him. And so it had to be secret, because he was able at that time to go online and see Facebook. And I'm like, nobody talk about this, make it a private event. I blocked him from it. And so the news stations all asked me, can we be there? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. And a lot of people wanted to go and be a part of that celebration when he came out of the doors. We had to turn a lot of people away, saying, no, we want to abide by the 6-foot rule. And oh man, what a day that was. It was almost like a first date. I had butterflies in my stomach. I was so nervous to see him. I knew that he had lost 50 pounds. So I was like, who's gonna be walking through those doors? I did some interviews, and we said 2 o'clock he needs to come out the door. So his nurse was really good about making sure he came out the doors at 2 and no sooner.
My nurse asked me, do you want to walk out of here or wheel out? I told her, I want to walk. She said, okay. So I stood up. She held my arm, of course, because I wasn't still strong. I had lost 53.3% of my muscle mass. I walked through the doors to come outside. The first thing I saw was my wife. And then I saw, I don't know, 150 people maybe, just standing out there with open arms, welcoming me. And that was amazing. That was just an amazing feeling. Just to know that I had beaten this disease.
And I was just giddy and I wanted him just to like run to me. And he's really slow. He was very weak. He walked over to me, and I just wrapped my arms around him, and I hugged him, and we kissed through the masks. I know it's corny, but we want to wait till we get home. And it was kind of scary actually when we got home. I'm like, can we kiss? Do we need to wear masks, in front of each other? And we didn't, because we were both, tested negative at that point. But driving him home was amazing. When we got to our house, the fire department that actually came and took him down was at our house with their ladder, and they had the sirens going and welcoming back home right in front of our house. And they were so glad that he survived, because a couple of the guys that were there were the ones that took him down. And we just, thank the fire department, the Tacoma Fire Department, and so grateful to so many people. I can't even tell you how many people this took. You know, the whole takes a village, not only to raise a child, but a community to pull together, and our community definitely did that.